Hello, good evening. Amos Tarfa here. Amos the STEM guy you might have seen. Thanks again to all of you who have helped me as I've polished up my program, Amos the STEM guy. Basically, Amos the STEM guy is all my math writings, everything with curriculum work I've done, put into one place so that people can continue following the journey, getting their kids quality STEM education as well as homeschool resources, right? So we help with, ideas for homeschool curriculum and stuff like that. These are things that will carry on. I'm a medical physicist by training, and I'm going to be working as a medical physicist. But I am excited to share with you just a little bit about the vision behind the name, a little bit about what happened in terms of when I came to America. I came as a pre-med student to be a pediatrician to help kids and inspire them like Ben Carson. That was my goal, right? And now here I am many years later, and I'm a medical physicist who has written math programs for people to use. So let's talk about that in a little bit. So Amos the STEM guy plus Amos the math guy equals STEM excellence, right? That's Amos the math guy, Amos the STEM guy. Those two sort of programs that put together are now just one. So Amos the STEM guy is a bigger category than math, right? STEM excellence is the name of the book that I'm putting together this year, coming out in the fall. And you'll notice that there's a lot of history in the book, a lot of math history. Again, these are things that I've worked on through the years. I enjoy studying the history of math and science and innovation and technology and stuff like that. And so in the rankings that you'll find almost anywhere, there are three names that come up as number one. Sometimes they're tied as number one for the best mathematicians the world has ever seen. What's interesting about all three of them, though, is they also did some things that we use in physics as well, right? So we have Carl Friedrich Gauss, who was a prodigy. Yes, you're right. There are people that are pretty good at a young age, and I'll give you an example of what he did on that side of the board. And then you have Leonard Euler and Isaac Newton, the other two people that, I call, my friends in a sense. Newton and I don't really hang out. I'm more of a Euler guy. Euler is my guy. Euler lived from 1707 to 1783, published a lot of papers, even when he went blind. I mean, this guy was exceptional. So let's talk about Carl Friedrich Gauss today in today's video. And then I'll wrap up with my story of what I do today. So Carl Friedrich Gauss, born in 1777 and lived for 77 years. When he was a young boy, there's a rumor or some story, I guess it's an anecdote, where they say that the students were supposed to add 1 plus 2 plus 3 all the way to 100. Or the teacher wanted them quiet, so he said add 1 to 100. And he came back and he said the answer is 5,050. And the question is, how do you know that? You're supposed to be working on this for a while. And apparently Carl Friedrich Gauss said, if you just take the number and multiply it to the number plus 1 divided by 2, you get the answer. And it's like, how is that possible, right? This kid is only like 8 years old, 9 years old. So he was a prodigy. Now, that story could have different variations, whatever the case there. We do know that at a young age, he was doing some amazing things. The way Gauss wrote his math that people studied later is not the same way Euler wrote. Euler's writings are easier to follow. And we actually have Euler's book as one of the books that our students use in our curriculum, Inspirational Mathematics. So Inspirational Mathematics 1, 2, and 3, right? That's a package that takes you from counting to calculus. Inspirational Mathematics 1 is pre-algebra. Inspirational Mathematics 2 is algebra 1 and 2 combined. And Inspirational Mathematics 3 is geometry and trig. So you cover 5 to 6 courses in a matter of 3 years, right? We've condensed it, and if you don't take summers off, you can be done in 2 years. It also works well for remedial college programs so that students who are freshman level students or who are preparing to go into college in the fall are better prepared. Now, speaking about the fall, I'm doing a series on books you should read before you go to college. So stay tuned for that. Of course, Thomas Sowell is on there and Vodi Bakum and some Apologetics. But if you're going to college, make sure you know why you're going to college and have a vision and direction first, and then have a plan to pay for it, and then go for it, right? For your undergrad, you really should be taking advantage of the CLEP testing and any other free college credits you can get, or just work a job and pay as you go. Because graduate school, for like medical school, is a different story, which leads to my story. So I came to America to be a doctor, but I realized my passion for teaching and math has always been there for the most part. Like after school, I remember at Air Force Primary School, Victoria Island, a friend of mine, I think Anthony might remember this too. We would stand outside and kids would ask, what's 2 times 2 times 2 times 2? And I would keep calling off the numbers, right? I enjoyed that kind of stuff. I was a nerd from a young age. And so when I came to America, I was studying chemistry pre-med, and philosophy became my minor. And it just became evident that I wanted to go more into apologetics, right? Teaching about the relationship between science and faith, answering the difficult questions that people have about the Christian faith. And so that was when I pivoted in 2010. The other reason that I didn't go to med school or didn't do a PhD right away was because of the job and the opportunity I had at Lakeview Christian Academy in Duluth, where I could teach young people math and science. And I just thought that would be great. Use my 20s hanging out with the youth. And I did that. Now, fast forward through the years, I wrote math programs, I tutored kids, I helped in education in different ways. And I thank God for those opportunities. And now in what I do, I see the importance of having a team. And on your team, you need people that run the nuts and bolts of things while you run with your vision. So my vision is to transform STEM education in America. As a medical physicist, I want to provide resources to students who can then someday maybe become physicists as well. There is a need in medical physics, by the way. So if you're looking for a college major, get a bachelor's in physics and then get your master's degree in medical physics. So that's a side plug there. But here's what's interesting in my journey. It's okay to pivot, and that's what happened. I had to pivot, right? And now my goal is STEM Excellence, which is a book coming out, How to Raise the Next Generation of Scientists, Mathematicians, and Thinkers. So that book is coming out in the fall. It's going to have stories of some of the greatest mathematicians. And I hope it inspires young people to just appreciate the mind that God has given people, right? There's smart people in this world. There are some smart people, right? Leonard Euler, E to the I pi plus 1 is equal to 0. I mean, beautiful theorem. And I have a video on that on my channel as well on that topic. But let me land with this. Do you notice that, and so anyways, the end of the story is, by God's grace, we will hopefully have a STEM college someday. As I work in science fields, I want to see how I can have faith and science taught, philosophy of science taught at our Christian STEM college someday. So stay tuned for more of that. But these are the dates for the birth. Newton was born 1642, died in 1727. Euler was born 1707, died in 1783. Gauss was born 1777 and lived for 77 years. That's a pretty cool set of years. And died in 1855. But do you notice that the 16 and 1700s gave us the groundwork on which a lot of other things carry on from? Newton is famously quoted as saying, even though he wasn't the one who actually said this, but he was quoting someone else when he said that if I have seen further, it's because I've stood on the shoulders of giants, right? Who are the giants that Newton had? He had Galileo and Kepler and Copernicus. Those guys lived in the years that led up to the 1700s and gave, well, the 1600s that gave us Newton. So here's the cool thing. There's a curriculum we have in our bookstore called Science in the Scientific Revolution. So if you're looking for a science curriculum, we have science curriculum for science